It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, December 31st. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is wondering just how seriously should we take a Michkov versus Celebrini competition.
Well, is it the only competition?
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here, as always, with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with the latest info about our show and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday. We are still going to have our Phantoms Tuesday report because the AHL keeps on trucking, even with all of the other hockey going on. We're going to touch on the Winter Classic as well, because that is today this year
Yeah.
as opposed to New Year's Day. But Flyers versus Sharks, part deux, as they say, for this season. I think, November 11th was the first game between the two teams, and Michkov was like pretty hot. Then a goal and an assist. He had just returned to action after being scratched for a couple of games. We talked about that scratching on yesterday's show and why he didn't do that this time around and put him right in on the Kings game. And so it feels like, this in combination with the fact that Celebrini has been long since back from injury and is like right on his heels. Like, is this game a Flyers versus Sharks game, or is this game a Celebrini versus Michkov game?
No, it's a Flyers versus Sharks. If that other narrative is a small narrative, because then you're kind of doing a disservice to Lane Hudson and Dustin Wolf, who are definitely cemented in this race too. So that's the issue with that. If you want to compare the two, go ahead, but they play different positions. They play differently. They're on different teams. They have different responsibilities. Celebrini can do more of what he wants because he's already a two-way player, and Michkov can't. So Celebrini
Right.
gets more ice time, even though he's played 8 less games. So you really can't compare them.
It's true, and I think they are in different places in their development,
They are.
for sure. Celebrini, I think, having been in North America all this time, is sort of ahead of the game here in terms of, adjusting to the
Right, which is
NHL.
not
And
surprising. That was expected,
yep.
honestly.
Yeah, and when we started the season, I think both of us agreed that Celebrini was the likely Calder winner, but something
Yeah.
different could happen. But
Although
that
I
if
picked
Hitchcock,
Stankoven, who just really hasn't done well in weeks, so, he's fallen out of it. But I knew everybody would be in that race. I knew there'd be 3 or 4 in this race, and there could be 5 in the end, 5 real legit.
yeah, yeah, and I was sort of thinking that if Mitchkov was in the 2 spot or the 3 spot in the votes, that's good for me.
Yeah, and
I
I
think that would be
still
good
think he
for
will be.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So expanding this then to a Flyers versus Sharks game, as you say it should be. Uh, we know that the Flyers won that game 4-3, but both teams are pretty different right now than they were then, for sure. The Sharks are 11-22-6. They're still last in the Pacific, but have had a real rough go of it. 7 losses in a row, 1-8-1 in their last 10. And I think, they they're losing very close games
They are.
time and time again. And it's a real struggle for them. Plus they've got some injuries, right?
Yeah. They have injuries. They lose close games, but the Flyers blow leads. It'll be one of those kinds of matchups. I think the easy part to look at is the Flyers look different against Western teams. Western teams are generally bigger and faster than the Flyers are, and they have trouble with them, just on the surface.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think, yeah, the Western Conference game is just a lot more north-south and
Yeah.
less east West, and the
Yep.
Flyers play a little bit more of an East-West game, and I think that's where they got hung up a little bit against the Kings for
Yeah.
sure. The Sharks' last game against the Flames, again, a close game. It was 3-1, but there was an empty net goal that they lost. Askarov has been in net for the Sharks. They've had so many injuries because Vitek Vanacek is on IR.
Hmm.
So for now, it seems like Askarov is the guy, right?
He is. He's 1-2-2 right now. He's got a good save percentage at 915. The same as Blackwood had a good save percentage, even though the record was bad because they give up a lot of shots. So that's just something that's going to help. But the 1-2-2 record's pretty good considering what their record is and what it is lately. And so, like, I think you have to look at this team differently if Askarov's in net. Like, it's a different game if he's in net.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure that he will be, given what their schedule is
Right.
and everything right now. But, you know, in addition to the Vanacek injury, of course, William Eklund is also on IR.
Yeah.
Vlasic has been on IR. Logan Couture is on
He's always on
IR.
IR,
Oh,
unfortunately.
I know. Jake Wallman is day to day
That's a big one.
right
Jake Wallman,
now.
like if he gets in the
Yeah,
game, he's had a great year.
right. So I think that they're making do and getting close to getting wins,
Yeah, I mean
which,
they only lost by a goal to Edmonton, and they were close. It was against Vancouver. Like these are pretty good
yeah,
teams, pretty high powered teams. So they have that ability. The thing that's scary about them is their power play. Not only do
right.
they have a high percentage, but they've had 121 power plays this year. The Flyers have only had 96. So they're good at drawing penalties. Who draws a lot of penalties? Celebrini does. And
Yep.
so, like, whoever's going to cover Celebrini is going to probably get penalized once or twice in this game. And they're really, like I said, that's their bread and butter is the power play. And the Flyers PK has been sagging. So that's the part that they have to watch. If they can keep them off the power play, I think it's a win, but that's an if.
Right. And that's also what's interesting about the two teams in the matchup, right? Is because the Flyers are scoring more goals than the Sharks. The
Yes.
Sharks have definitely struggled in the
Yes.
scoring department for sure, and have been well under that 3-goal threshold over the course of this season. But, the Flyers and Sharks are allowing similar numbers of goals. And
Yeah.
so all the Sharks need are chances, and they're gonna take advantage of them in a way that I think maybe the Flyers have struggled with sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And, again, I watch what Celebrini can do with the puck and he makes his line mates better, but it's not like he just is a one-trick pony. Like he can
Right.
go on either side. He's, right now at this point in his career, he's got much better stick and puck control than Michkov does. He's more comfortable doing it. Michkov is a little more calculating with what he's doing and a little sneakier, but Celebrini will do it right in front of your face and just make you look bad. So that's one of the things you really have to watch. But they do have good team speed. Their defense is definitely a sore point, but if Wallman's back in there, it's going to be a little better. And
Yeah.
I think this will be a closer game than people want.
Right. Right. I'm just curious what you think about their other rookie, Will Smith, because he's somebody that both of us really liked in his draft year. In his last 5 games or so, he had a good game against Vegas where he had a goal and an assist, but
Yeah.
like he didn't get on the board at all in the other 4 games. And I think it's been a little bit more uneven than maybe he would like and maybe the Sharks would like. But he also has the benefit of having Celebrini there and is sheltered a little bit in terms of expectations, right?
He is sheltered a little bit with expectations. I've noticed and I think he gets really good power play time, that he does still look pretty good on the power play, Will Smith. He's always going to look at home on that. I do think he's a dangerous guy to watch. I do think there's some chemistry there. I mean, he has 6 goals and 7 assists, which isn't bad. I mean, we have to remember, coming straight out of college, he's only 19. Like, again, a different kind of 19
Yep.
than Michkov because, he's coming out of college. So
Right.
I think he's pretty dangerous. And I think he's one of these guys that does like to lay in the weeds but can still hurt you in a game. So yeah, you got to watch for them. You do.
Yeah, and I think offensively for the Flyers, I think the Cates line is gonna have their chances in this
Yeah,
one,
I think
just
so.
simply because of the Sharks' defense. I think that that line in particular plays like to their strengths in a way that can take advantage of the weaknesses in the Sharks' defense, right?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could take advantages of the Sharks defense for sure. We have to be fair and say Michael Granlund's having a career year. And he was a problem if I remember the last game. He's their leading scorer. He's definitely an issue. And then Luke Cunning's also a guy that can get to the net.
Yeah.
He is a hard-nosed kind of guy, and so these, they have some decent role players. Some of those injuries hurt them a bit, but yeah, they should be able to do that, and they should be able to get to the net. And you really can't leave Tyler Toffoli open either because he's still got 14
No.
goals. He's their leading goal scorer. That's a guy like because the Flyers have been leaving room open in the middle, and Toffoli's going to exploit that if he sees that room. Like that's his whole career is finding
Yeah,
that space on the ice. So they have to
absolutely.
they do have to play tough that way. Can they? Sure, absolutely. Even Nico Sturm gives them problems.
Yeah, I think the Flyers are just gonna have to play a little more buttoned up than they did against the Kings, but I think there's definitely opportunities here for more offense,
Yes.
and to continue kind of the scoring at the level that they did against the Kings. They'll just hopefully Travis Konechny can take some more shots. And
This is the team to do it against. The
yep,
problem is he doesn't have a book on, on Askarov. So that's something where, the Flyers don't have a book on him.
yeah. So we'll see, but looking forward to spending New Year's Eve with the Flyers in San Jose. And in the meantime, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, of course, keep trucking and had a couple of games. We're going to get into that and how Emil Andrae is doing this week. And we'll get into that coming up next.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you weren't paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features, including the subscription tracker to help cancel those services you no longer use. Cancel those unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Coming up on our New Year's Day show, it is a new year. I cannot believe it will be
Yeah.
January this week already. We are going to recap that Flyers versus Sharks game, give a World Juniors update, and give our Flyers and hockey related New Year's resolution. So if you have a New Year's resolution for the Flyers or for yourself related to hockey, let us know. There's a post on our YouTube channel. You can comment on where you can leave them, and maybe we'll include them in the show. So the Lehigh Valley Phantoms had a split decision weekend, much like the Flyers did, and they had a close game against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, which was actually pretty good, all things considered, based on how the previous game went with 132 penalty minutes in it. This one was
Yeah.
much more calm and collected. The Phantoms did lose 3-2 in that one, but it was definitely a closely contested game. Their second game of the weekend was against the Checkers, who are a very good team, who have one of the highest point percentage in the division right now, and they won that one 2-1. Played generally very well. Now the Checkers are also a little bit decimated because of injuries and such. So there's a little bit of an asterisk there, but not really because they have a very good system in place. And so the fact that the Phantoms were able to win is a good thing. It moved them up to 5th in the Atlantic for now, but again with point percentage and games in hand, it's a little bit of a mirage there with the standings, and they're still 4-5-1 in their last 10. So I would say a mixed bag of a weekend, but with some hopeful signs.
Yeah, the only thing is what's not so hopeful for me is after the Wilkes-Barre game, uh, Tony Androckida's got a quote, and I forget who the player was, but he basically was
It was
saying
the
if the fa-
coach.
it was coach, thank you. If the Phantoms play like this, I don't get what they're doing. Like they're just, they basically, for lack of a better term, they were just saying they don't have a system. They just kind
Mm.
of go out there and wing it, and that did not make me feel comfortable at all.
Yeah, it's interesting because given how things went in that previous game where he and Lappy got tossed from the game because they got into it toward the end of it, this time both of them managed to stay on the bench for the entirety of the game. And so part of it, I think there's like 50% of this, which is a little just him being salty because of the
Right.
previous game. And there's a little bit of bluster to it. And, the fact that Wilkes-Barre Scranton won the game, I would give it a little bit of grain of salt there. That being said, there is a kernel of truth to it in
There
that
is.
I do think that there is a lack of a complex system here, that the entirety of the Phantom system is play simple hockey. And there's an advantage to that in certain cases and at the AHL level for sure. Like when you're trying to integrate somebody new onto the roster or you have a younger prospect and you want
Hmm.
to have them play a simple game that you build on from there, right? The problem is it doesn't go anywhere from there with the Phantoms, that there isn't anything I think there for guys to learn more complex systems or to mirror anything that the Flyers are doing. And I think it makes some of these younger players with Lehigh Valley unprepared for
Well,
anything bigger.
perfect example is Emil Andrae. He gets sent down. He gets sent down to a team that doesn't have the same system as the Flyers, and he's not going to even replicate what the Flyers do down there. So how's that going to help him?
Right. And I think that, Ole Lixell is obviously on the road trip with the
Right.
Flyers right now. And so far he has not played. Maybe he'll get in against the Sharks. We don't know
Maybe.
yet. But I think that, he is another skilled player that Andre could do something with, and especially on the power play, right? Where they're
Absolutely.
just and so I think Andre is missing him there, and Anthony Richard is injured. So
Right.
you take two of the higher skilled players on the Phantoms, remove them from the roster. What is Andre supposed to do on the power play other than the best he can at the point, which
Right.
is exactly what he's doing.
Right.
The Phantoms haven't had a ton of power play success, but and Emil Andrae cannot do it on his own. I mean,
No.
they were 1 for 10 in these 2 games. Not great, right? Andre is taking shots for sure. But, he does need more skilled
You
teammates
do. You
to
got to have
work
somebody to
with.
play off of. If you don't have
Right.
guys to play off of, it makes it very hard to do it on your own.
Right. And so also with Andre, he went to Lappy the morning of this Wilkes-Barre Scranton game after the holiday break, right? And said, I know I was really bad in the last game. I played 3 games in 3 days, travel. This is a reset. I'm going to play better. I would say he did play better, but it's still not there yet, and I mostly think that's okay. I think, again, because of the lack of people to play with, I think on the blue line, he does, but I just think that the forwards aren't good enough for him
Right.
as far as effective breakouts, and, you see the same problem with Bronze, you see the same problem with Jinning.
Yeah.
Both of them could be better if they had better forwards to work
Yeah.
with.
That's why Gronz looks good when he goes up, and so does Andre.
Yeah. So, I thought he had solid puck movement, some key passes that just didn't end up as goals, like I said, because the forwards aren't skilled enough. He had some nice, really good grinding work along the boards, winning some puck battles, and there's just a lack of consistency, which I think will come with time, and adjusting to working with who he has to work with and figuring out how to make the best of it
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. But, he had an assist on the game-winning goal against Charlotte. That was a really good play. So I think that there's a lot of potential here, and he is improving, which is a good thing.
No, that's good. I mean, but there's only so much impact he's going to be able to have. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you look at Ole Lixell has missed several games, right? In term
It's not
because
great
he's
for a
gotten
player. I
called up.
mean, it's good for his pocketbook, but it's not great for a player when he's just starting to pick it up in the AHL. Then he gets called up, which is great. He's happy, but then he doesn't play. So then he doesn't
Right.
play, and then it's like, what does that do? Doesn't help the Phantoms, doesn't help him. It just helps the
No.
Flyers have somebody in tow while they're on the road trip. Why do they need somebody in tow on the road trip? Because they have 3 goalies, Rachel.
Yeah. No, I know. And you look at the Phantoms points leaders right now. So Lixell is still the points leader despite having call up time
In
out.
absentia.
Yeah, in absentia. Samu Tuomala is in second place, but he's barely done anything. I think he had an assist this weekend, but barely done anything. Jacob Gaucher got that contract. He didn't get on the board at all this past week. Number 4 is Anthony Richard, who's been hurt for a
He's been
couple
hurt for
weeks,
a while, yeah.
right? And then Oscar Eklund is in 5th place, 4 goals, 10 assists, so with only 14 points on the season
Not a lot.
in 29 games. So there's just this perennial lack of scoring because there's not enough skilled forwards on this team.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a situation where I understand some of their top prospects are at lower levels, and that'll change a little next year. But then next year, when I bring up those guys, who do I want coaching them? Because I don't think these guys, I don't think the coach is getting the most out of these players. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Brendan Furry is kicking into gear because he got his first goal last week,
That's
got
good.
a second goal this week. He had a breakaway shorthanded
Okay.
game-winning goal against Charlotte.
That's
It was
good.
a
Yeah.
fan-flippantastic play.
I mean, but
And
JR Avon is just missing in
right.
action.
Right. So, there's little nuggets of hope here, like I said, but I just feel like there's some fundamental issues that continue to persist. And one of them is goaltending. And we are going to talk about that and the Winter Classic coming up next. All right. So, goaltending for the Phantoms. I know we harp on this on the show, but with good reason.
Yes.
And, Cal Peterson played the Friday game against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, 27 saves on 30 shots. I would say he played generally okay, but that third goal, that was the difference making goal, was really bad on his part. And he absolutely should have had it. And it just really bummed me out because the Phantoms had a chance to win
Right.
that game.
Yeah, they were playing a good game. That's all part of it. I mean,
He's just not a guy that's gonna ever steal a game for you.
no, I've just, we're not mad at him or anything. He's just
No.
not that good. That's all. He's an AHL average goalie right now.
Yeah,
That's
and
what he is.
it's interesting to me because I understand McIniemi is hurt, and
Mhm.
then the Flyers have decided to hold all 3 goaltenders with the main roster, okay, but they haven't ostensibly done anything to solve this other than
No.
they've called up Parker Gahagan as in back-to-back scenarios, he gets a game. And Parker Gahagan, as much as I've liked him in the past, is definitely an ECHL goalie. I
Yeah.
feel like he's not as good as he has been in the past there. He makes me so nervous the way he skates out from the net. But then he'll have an incredible save like he did in the
Mhm.
third period against Charlotte to save the game. 29 saves on 30 shots. He did have a very good game on Saturday, but his style of play does not lend itself for consistency and success to bail out a team that's not scoring.
Right. Yeah, I mean, were there other goalies out there? Yeah. Yeah, there were other goalies out there. I can think of one.
Are
Felix
there goalies
Sandstrom.
out there now? That's the
No,
thing.
no, but they had goalies in house, and Felix Sandstrom's one of them. And even if you never were going to call up Felix Sandstrom to the NHL again, he's still a pretty good AHL goalie.
Yeah.
He's not having the best year, but I think he would be better than some of the backups they have, and I think he probably would have stayed. He's still got what does he have? A 5-4 record. It's not terrible. My whole thing is this. It's just like you kept Peterson because you had to. So I'm sure he's motivated to win to some degree, but he's not a Phantom.
No.
None of these other guys are Phantoms or Flyers guys. You let one go. Sandstrom, who at least would have had the hope maybe that he could come up someday, but not with 3 goalies sitting up in the NHL either. Like
right.
It wasn't going to be. That's the problem with the whole picture here.
Yeah, and I understand to some degree they're kind of in this weird in between state with goalies that there's a couple of guys coming down the pike, that will start developing in North America next year, the year after, something along those lines. But I think that they can do something about the interim, and they just haven't, and that's very frustrating.
They could have signed Sandstrom to a 1-year deal. Nobody would have said boo.
No. All right, so this week we have a New Year's Eve game for the Flyers, also for the Phantoms. The second of the home and home with Charlotte. This is a home game. They're doing the world's largest puck drop in Allentown again. So good times in downtown Allentown if you are in the area there. And then their next couple of games, Friday, January 3rd, they're at Utica. And Saturday, they're at Syracuse. So doing some upstate New York quality time then. So we'll talk about those games
the
next
New York
week.
State Thruway. What a throw.
I know. I know. The Winter Classic is also today instead of January 1st, as is the tradition. And I feel like this year I haven't heard as much about it until maybe last minute. And I'm just wondering, is this Blackhawks fatigue? Is this Winter Classic fatigue? Like, what's your take on what's going on with the Winter Classic?
Yeah, I'll say this. Now, I'm not going this year either, but the only reason I'm not going is because the World Juniors. That's my choice every year, World Juniors and Winter Classic. And, those years that I wrote the book, I went a million years in a row, but I do still watch every year. I think this year, there's 2 things. Last year, ratings were lower with TNT. So I think it's a TNT versus NBC problem. That's a problem. But they still had 1.3.
And TNT is doing it again this year.
Right. They still have 1.36 million viewers, though. And so compared to an NHL playoff game that might get like 3 million, it's still pretty good for a game. Now, why did they switch it? They switched it because of the college football championships. They would have gotten smoked on that.
Right.
So you can't go up against that. So I get it. So I think they probably could have done a better job letting people know that it's on a different day now. I think that's fair because now, they're going to kind of go up against the World Juniors, USA against Canada. So, that's something. People are going to be flipping. You still could gain an audience from that, but they're going to be flipping. I think there is a Blackhawks fatigue a little bit. It's not going to stop people from going. I know people that bought tickets. They're there. It's going to be sold out, and it's going to be a raucous crowd.
Wrigley is still super cool. Like a hockey game at Wrigley, that's fantastic, right?
Yeah, it's still great, except trying to find overpriced parking spots because there's no regulation. I don't miss that. But it'll be fun that way. But it's still going to keep occurring because they sell out at the park and they get corporate support. And until Discover says, I'm tired of this, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think so. And, I bet that obviously, between the Flyers game and World Juniors, that's like where my focus will be.
Sure.
But I'll flip over and just catch a few minutes. And
I mean, Connor Bedard's going to play outside. There is something to that. I went, to the first one, and the speed of that one, if it wasn't the best, it was one of the best. So now I'm going to kind of gauge that in my mind. How is the speed of younger Patrick Kane? That was a while ago.
Oh, no.
Compared to Connor Bedard now. Like, I want to see what the difference is. And the Red Wings, even Datsuk was still pretty quick for that game. But it was so I want to see that. I want to see where the rink is, how it's different. But I do think coverage kind of ramped up a little late on it. I
Yeah.
do agree with that.
Yeah, I think so, but I think it should be fun for everybody who's
Yeah.
there, and it still is a really great event. I
It's a
just feel like
happening. It's like something going on
yeah,
in your town that you go to. There's some great college hockey games. I think Michigan's playing there. So there's other events going on that people are going to go to. Some people will get to skate on it. That stuff's fun. I've skated on those rinks. It's great.
yeah, so, we'll see how that one goes, but I'll definitely check it out for a little bit. I hope everybody out there has a very happy and safe New
Yeah,
Year's.
safe is the big thing.
Yep, absolutely, and, we will be back in 2025 to talk Flyers versus Sharks. We're gonna get caught up on World Juniors and talk about those New Year's resolutions that we all have,
It'll be
especially
from
related to
Canada for
hockey.
me. It won't be from New
Yes.
Jersey.
Well, we'll see if things are different in Canada as far as New Year's go.
Yeah.
Tell us what the future is like in a different country, Russ.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alright.
That'll be fun.
Alright, as a reminder, like I said, we're gonna collect those New Year's resolutions on our YouTube channel. There's a post where you can comment on it right now. And if you have mailbag questions, you're free to comment on our YouTube channel or email us at lockedonflyers@gmail. You can let us know on any of our socials at lockedonflyers. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.